I think that Ohio State, when it comes to their quarterback room, is in a very intriguing position, but I think the answer is actually pretty straightforward when it comes to who's going to be the starting quarterback. You got options, though. To quote Jack Harlow, you got options, all right? So I think they have legitimately 3 different individuals who could probably all play somewhere tomorrow within that quarterback room, maybe 4, depending on how you feel about Lincoln Keenholz and Julian Sayin. But Devin Brown, I think, had a really good spring game. Just full transparency, I'm a Devin Brown guy. I think that he's kind of gotten a bad rap since getting to Ohio State. Last year, you heard a lot about his playmaking ability and what he could do behind closed doors. Made it a battle of sorts. It went all the way into the fall for Ryan Day and Kyle McCord, but like at the end of the day, wasn't ready to play. It's okay. It's not a sin to not be ready to play at Ohio State when you have a guy who's been there longer than you in front of you. It is what it is. Played in the game against Missouri. I was really hoping we get to see what he could do in that game. Unfortunately, gets hurt, and Ohio State doesn't have their best showing. Worth noting they were without their best wide receiver in that game too, Marvin Harrison Jr., but I digress. Julian Sayin, you've heard a lot of buzz around him. One of the top quarterbacks from 2024, enrolled early at Alabama. Nick Saban retires. He transfers short-term signee style to Columbus, and he's made some real noise during spring ball, and there's a reason for that. Like, you don't hear true freshmen around, that program having the buzz that they have for no reason, just to kind of pump up a true freshman. They got options in that quarterback room. And I think it's worth noting, too, Julian Sayin getting reps in the first half of that football game should tell you a lot about the kind of spring game that he had, or the kind of spring, rather, that he had. Now, speaking of the spring game, there's a lot of hype, a lot of expectations. People are talking about him. Ryan Day is talking about him being in the mix for that quarterback position. Overall, you kind of saw him look like a freshman in that spring game, and he's a talented true freshman. He looked that way in the spring game, and it's hard to fault him for his first action in front of 80,000 people not lighting the world on fire. Will Howard, transferring over from Kansas State in that first portal window, his resume speaks for itself, right? His resume and what he did at Kansas State and the Big 12 title he has to his name tells you a lot about the kind of player he is. And so when people talk about the Ohio State quarterback room, I think the anti-Buckeye folks from other fan bases will say, well, why is it taking so long? Thought you had your guy in the transfer portal that you already snagged with Will Howard. We're sitting here after 15 practices. You got Chip Kelly running the show. You don't have a quarterback yet? Do you not have a good option? I think what most Buckeye fans would respond to that is, well, hey, this is how Ryan Day does things, all right? Ryan Day doesn't name a starting quarterback after spring practice, even when it was Justin Fields. And pretty much everyone and their mama knew he was going to be the guy. He was not announced as the starter until mid-August. C.J. Stroud, same deal. You knew what he was. You knew what he was bringing to the table. You knew his ability. You knew how highly touted he was out of high school. There wasn't really a strong number 2 option for you there that you felt like was going to beat him out. He wasn't named until fall camp as the starter. So what I'm trying to say here is it was 15 practices. I'm not overly concerned if a guy hasn't grabbed the job by the throat just yet. It's not how things have gone at Ohio State. Typically, goes into fall camp. Heck, last year with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, Ryan Day took a couple of games to name the starter. So they typically will let things bake a little bit longer, play the long game, and eventually name a starter when they get further and further closer to the season. Now, you want a guy to win the job, and I think it's also worth mentioning here, Chip Kelly, he's the new offensive coordinator. He's working with the quarterbacks. He's only been there for 15 practices. He's still getting a gauge for everyone in that room. So the fact they haven't named a starter should not be concerning. I don't think Buckeye fans are concerned, and I think all the noise you hear around that is, it's just bitter people saying bitter things, to be honest. So when we talk about Ohio State going forward now in the quarterback room, I told you at the top of this thing, I think there's an answer there. I think they know where they're going, and I think it's Will Howard until it's not. That's no shade on Devin Brown or on Julian Sayin, but let's just be real here. Devin Brown has been in that team for a while. Julian Sayin is a true freshman. If Devin Brown was your guy, I don't think you go out and grab a Will Howard. If Julian Sayin was going to win the job, I don't think that was going to be something that you probably were leaning on going towards anyway. It would have been an uphill battle for him to somehow win the job, period. The thing with Will Howard that should be encouraging for Buckeye fans is you know what you're getting with him. He's got a 4-year resume when it comes to what he's done at the collegiate level. You're not guessing about who he's going to be when the lights come on. And that's important for Buckeye fans, man, because with how good this roster is, with what you have in the backfield, with what you have at the wide receiver position, you don't need to hope that your quarterback can get it done. You need the smallest degree of variance as possible playing quarterback for you to drive this Ferrari. Now, Kyle McCord last year, you felt like maybe was a little bit more of a game manager than you would have liked with how potent that offense could have been. I think Will Howard brings more to the table with his legs and pushing the ball downfield and the experience. All those things factor into him being the right guy for you at Ohio State. All right, worth noting too, because he hasn't won the job yet, it's been 15 practices. He's also acclimating. He's also getting up to steam. But whoever takes that quarterback job, again, I believe it's Will Howard, they're set up for success. Like I alluded to a second ago. That running back room, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, those are some guys you want to hand the football to consistently and set you up a lot in 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 1. Like that's a good place to be. Emeka Egbuka, he's a 1,000-yard receiver when he's healthy. Jeremiah Smith caught like a LeBron James comp during the spring game broadcast. That doesn't even make sense, but that tells you how highly people think of him within that program and on the outside looking in from what they've heard about him. Ryan Day, whoever he starts at quarterback, again, I think it's Will Howard, but if there's any pushback on who folks believe should be the starter or isn't named the starter, like just understand now, Ryan Day and the pressure he has on him to beat Michigan this year, he's making a calculated bet with who he names the starting quarterback. They're going to be the guy to beat Michigan. So I promise you, as much as Buckeye Nation cares about who's the starting quarterback and how strongly they feel, I promise you, Ryan Day feels 10x those emotions and 10x that pressure. So I think it's Will Howard. To recap it for you here, if you felt like you had an answer in the room or you thought you were going to play somebody else, you wouldn't go out and get a Will Howard. You had your starting quarterback coming back from last season if you wanted to. They're pushing the envelope. I think Will Howard presents the smallest degree of risk for you, and I'm excited to watch what the Buckeyes do here in 2024. I would expect, again, I'm making a prediction here, I expect Ohio State to name their starting quarterback true to Ryan Day's routine sometime in August, and I'd be wildly surprised if it's not Will Howard. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.